Before TV and Times Square, how did our grandparents welcome the new year? From Great Depression austerity to post-war glamour, we'll look back at how Americans rang in the new year from the 1930s to 1950s. From big bands to Bobby Sockers, experience New Year's Eve through the generations as we reveal the traditions and celebrations of decades past. The 1930s. The 1930s were a contradictory time for New Year's Eve celebrations. With the Great Depression gripping the nation, extravagant parties were out of reach for many families struggling financially. Most rung in the new year quietly at home with a small meal, homemade decorations, and listening to Guy Lombardo's big band on the radio if they were lucky enough to have one. Children stayed up late playing board games as families shared a toast at midnight with either homemade cider or whatever alcohol was left over from before Prohibition. By the end of the decade, as the economy improved, New Year's Eve celebrations became more lavish among middle and upper-class Americans. Hotel ballrooms and nightclubs hosted glamorous formal galas with live big bands, dancing, and multi-course meals. Women dressed in bias-cut satin gowns and men in tuxedos as they danced the night away to jazz music. At home parties, hosts served illicit cocktails and champagne now that Prohibition had ended. Midnight celebrations with noisemakers, funny hats, and toasts welcomed the new year with hope after a decade of hardship. The 1940s. New Year's Eve during the 1940s was a patriotic celebration with more low-key festivities as World War II raged on. Lavish parties were considered inappropriate with rationing and limited resources. Communities gathered for USO dances and parties with big band music from Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, and more to boost morale. Couples swing danced to hits like In the Mood and Sing, Sing, Sing. With a midnight ban on liquor sales, hosts stocked up on cocktails beforehand and served guests whiskey, gin, and other drinks they could obtain. Women donned their best dresses as they entertained company with music, games, and conversation, sending well wishes to troops abroad. Friends gathered to watch local fireworks displays and share a midnight champagne toast with hopeful excitement for the new year. By the war's end, extravagant hotel balls and nightclub parties returned. Cinema, Broadway, and music also thrived, enticing revelers to dress up and enjoy entertainment. Though rationing continued for a few more years, the post-war spirit ushered in a sense of optimism and new traditions. The 1950s New Year's Eve was a glamorous affair in the 1950s as Americans reveled in post-war prosperity. Lavish hotel balls, nightclub extravaganzas, and house parties were back in style after the austerity of World War II. Party hosts spared no expense transforming spaces with glittering accents, fresh flower centerpieces, candles, and banners reading, "Happy New Year!" Women dazzled in elegant floor-length gowns, elbow-length gloves, and fur stoles. Men looked dapper in black tie attire. Couples danced cheek to cheek as live bands played jazzy big band hits and pop standards from greats like Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole, and more. The champagne flowed freely as guests noshed on fancy appetizers and multi-course meals. The new medium of television added excitement, with New Year's specials featuring entertaining hosts and performances from hot singers. By 1956, the Times Square ball drop was televised across the nation in living black and white. Teenagers gathered for album parties as rock and roll took off, welcoming the new year by dancing the night away to Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock, Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good, and more. Poodle skirts, leather jackets, saddle shoes, and blue jeans filled rumpus rooms and sock hops. Milkshakes, burgers, and apple pie provided fuel for all-night revelry, often chaperoned by parents wary of the rebellious new music. No matter the musical genre, New Year's Eve was cause for optimism and celebration after years of sacrifice. America was ready to live it up. And there you have it, a nostalgic look back at how Americans celebrated New Year's Eve from the 1930s through the 1950s. It's amazing to see how celebrations evolved each decade in reflection of the times. From economizing during the Great Depression to swinging into the post-war boom, ringing in the new year has always been cause for celebration and optimism. Wishing everyone an unforgettable New Year's Eve this year and a healthy, prosperous start to the new year. And as always, thank you for watching.